There we go. All right. I'm going to double check that everything is on. It's like I always am thinking, like, are the technical gods on my side today?
Oh.
And we like it when they are.
Absolutely.
Restart this. Okay. Yes. Awesome. So first of all, welcome to Connect and Create. And I'm Corrina Sephora. And if it's the first time that you're joining us, thank you for being here. And if you've come back multiple times over and over again, thank you also for being here. And if you're in the audience and you're on our calendar slotted for the future, thank you so much for being a person who's willing to share yourself and share something from your life in your creative life. And so that's what I want to say. And so Connect and Create is partially funded from the generous grant from the Fulton County Council for the Arts. And I'm proud to say this is the first time I can really say 100% like, thank you for this wonderful grant, because everything is everything is lined up now. So before we get started, I want to welcome a few of you that are here in the live Zoom audience. Annalise, you made it all the way from Poland. Wonderful.
Hey, Corrina, sorry about the snafu.
That's okay. It was funny, right before I got started, for some reason, Facebook Live and Zoom were like, I had to like create a new set of passwords, and I was, it's that moment there. So thank you for your patience, and thanks for joining. And Roxy, thank you so much for being here.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so many times on Connect and Create, I have guests that I've set up from, from my life, people who I know, or people who have offered to be a guest speaker. And today, I'm the guest speaker. And so this happens every once in a while as well. Which I'm excited about. And what I want to share with all of you today, well, first, anything that any of you in our live Zoom audience want to share to be present?
I apologize for being late. That's totally in my space. I was like so on time, ready to go. And I don't know if it was a technological dealio. And I'm thrilled, seriously, that you're speaking and I can interact with you. And despite the technological difficulty that, I have such a powerful, amazing artist and creator, because I'd love to create some amazing things for 2021. And I know you as a powerful, kick-ass lady. So I'm really excited to have you on my right shoulder.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all of that. And thank you for being here. And you weren't alone with technical snafu. I had a little one of those myself. So at any rate, anything for you, Roxy, before I get started with the initial conversation?
No, really. I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry that I didn't really get on the ball earlier and join all of them. But I'm a little Zoom phobic, and so I'm kind of 2021 is my year to get over that phobia.
Doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
I know, exactly.
Embrace it.
Exactly. So gotta join them.
Well, on the topics of Zoom, I have to say this was a year I really embraced it. I have a course that I've been involved with, a global course, Wisdom for the Arts, for the last couple of years, where I've been, involved with Zoom. But
right.
I created two different offerings for the world this year on Zoom, and one was a course called Big Vision, and the other was Connect and Create. And so today and the Big Vision course was such a hit. I've created Big Vision 2. So that's what I'm mainly going to be sharing about today.
Okay.
And every once in a while, I also, as practice as I feel like I am, I have these little snafus that happen. And I've realized over time, you have to just kind of breathe through it and be patient. And, the next step is what's the next step? So, and by the way, those of you that are listening in on Facebook Live, or those of you that are here with us in the Zoom audience, Roxy is also a recipient of this awesome grant that I am, and she's also going to be our guest speaker next week. So I'm super excited. I've been an admirer of your work for many years, and so I'm really looking forward to getting a taste of what you're going to be sharing as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, as I mentioned, I'm Corrina Sephora, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about, well, first of all, I thought I would, sometimes it's nice to kind of complete the past, right? And then start something new. So I mentioned that I started a course called Big Vision. And last year, I had my first run of it. And I thought I would share just a little bit of what people had to say about their participation in last year's Big Vision course. So one of the participants, I'm just going to read this out loud as it disappears. One of the participants had this to say. And so the Big Vision course is a course that's about really empowering artists to be who they are, make a living as an artist, follow their dreams. And inside the pandemic, I love teaching, right? And I've taught at universities, and I teach classes in my studio in person. And I thought, well, how can I pivot? How can I create something that I offer? And I sat down through journaling and working with my studio assistant, and I said, listen, these are I think I could create a course online for other artists and for creative people to empower them in their journey, in what they're up to. And so I started putting the notes down for it, and my assistant was like, you have so much to offer, right? And so that's the premise on what I did. And I just created different modules. There were 6 different modules, and I've created 6 new modules. There's a little bit of overlapping information from last year's course. And then of course some new, because I realized as I was meeting with the wonderful women that were a part of the course, it's open to men and women, but I happen to have all women in the course. So I have a couple of things that people wrote in. And so I thought I would start with that. And then I'm going to share a little bit about the modules for this upcoming year. And then we'll open it up for some question and answer, and maybe there'll be a little storytelling moments too. So let's see. Corrina has a wealth of experience in exhibiting and selling her art. Her experience in the art world and willingness to share offers valuable information for creating a sustainable art practice. There is much to be gained from her workshops. And so that was from one of the participants. And she's a practicing artist. She used to live in Atlanta, and she now lives in Maine. And so she got a lot of value out of the course, obviously. So, and then from one of the other participants, she said, I was able to get unstuck with my blocks and flip the context of me being an artist looking to sell my work, and moving from being desperate to being selected, to looking at choosing and being able to pick who I want to work with. So that was one of the other participants, Lavanya, actually from Texas. And then we had one more participant who wrote in, and she says, yes, I learned so much about showing my work. Mostly, I found the confidence to do and to show up and be an artist. So we really talked about, all that stuff that's kind of in your mind, really, right? But we also got into some technical things. So based on some of the conversations we had in the previous course and some other areas that I thought would be fun to add, the first module is really looking at, who are you as an artist? Take kind of like a deep dive, like who do you envision yourself to be in the world? And since I use myself as an example of what I've learned, but then I also pointed to a number of other artists that we're familiar with through art history, and talked about different bits and pieces from their lives. And then now, where are they in their lives, in their careers and lives as artists, okay? And so we do some work around looking and seeing, well, who am I as an artist? And what are my visions of who I am, and I like to say the word legacy, like what will I leave behind? And I'm a metal sculptor, and just saying that, there's this concept that I've always lived with, that long after I'm gone, there would be something to be remembered by, that I touched this earth, that I had something to say, and that it was received. And growing up, I always looked at art history, and I looked at certain women, specifically women sculptors, people like Louise Nevelson, Louise Bourgeois, and they left these legacies behind. Now, I have a slightly different lifestyle than either of those people, but they are people who I looked at as some of the first women sculptors to be recognized in the US. And so that was some of my models, right? And being a metal sculptor, when I first opened my business, there were maybe 50 other women running a blacksmithing and metal sculpture studio similar to mine in the US. Thousands of men, but not that many women. And then I also flash back even earlier than that. My first day of art school, they said 1% of all art school students will go on to make a living practicing what they study once they're out of art school. And so I really spent the first probably like 15 years of my life as an artist, really like, how can I acquire the tools and equipment that I need? How can I make a living as an artist? And spent 2 years working with other artists and industry, and then opened up my own studio in 97. And I've been working with that model ever since, of having my own studio and teaching some, but I've never been like a full-time professor. I've thought about it. I enjoy teaching, but I've always kept my studio practice as kind of like my mainstay. So so the first module is really like looking and seeing like, what's the legacy that you want to leave behind? And who do you want to be as a live artist? Who do you want to exist as, and who do you want to live as? And really getting in touch with that and having that be what is at the forefront of the choices and the decisions that you make in your creative life. So the second module, I've created something in my own life that I call a trifecta. And the trifecta is essentially 3 main areas that I focus on as my sources of income. Something that I have done in life is I've spent a lot of time taking courses that are for entrepreneurs. And I really believe artists are entrepreneurs. And, I take it seriously that I have a business. I keep regular hours. Of course, there's a little flexibility because, I have a small staff, and me. And so, but I really have taken some time to really learn, like, what does it mean to run a business? And how do I operate as an artist and acknowledge that I own a business? Andy Warhol, for instance, said that one of the points of success of an artist was, who were they as a business person? So at a certain point in my life, I embrace like I'm an artist and I am a business. And so inside of my trifecta, I share a little bit about, having multiple sources of income. And at one of my low points, the students really enjoyed this sharing, so I'll share with you all right now. One of my low points, when I didn't have any commissions, work wasn't selling in shows, and I didn't have any, projects where I was like being a professor. I've been an adjunct professor at multiple universities, but I just was like, I wasn't making enough money, right? And I went out and I filled out a waitressing application. I thought, people do it. I guess I could do it. And I filled out the application. And by the time I wrote down my references, I just said, Corrina, and I'm not belittling in any way, shape, or form if people have taken on the path of being a waitress or a food server. Or I think it's a wonderful way to have, a way to make a living and have food at your fingertips. I'm not belittling that for other people, but for me, I realized, I had my master's degree, I had been a professor at different places. And out of that, I chose to start teaching courses out of my studio, because I had to look and say, what is something that I enjoy doing? And sometimes you're making artwork that isn't the first thing that people want to purchase, and you want to experiment. And sometimes, you're in between commissions, or, all the different sources of income you have. And so I created teaching as something that I loved doing, I enjoyed. And it's like, by refocusing my energy and having this other source of income, one of my other dreams, I'm going to tell you, as an artist, I'd heard of people making money while they were sleeping. And I thought, I want to be one of those people that can make money while I'm sleeping. And I now have my website set up in a way that people can sign up for courses, and they can also purchase art off of my website. And I can wake up in the morning and look and say, huh, look at that. So anyway, so I'll talk a little bit about trifecta, and we'll look and see what's something you enjoy doing, because sometimes you want to have multiple different aspects of who you are as an artist, or what you do as an artist that makes a living or gives you joy, or hopefully some combination. We'll look at different ways that you can step up who you are as an artist in the aspects of being professional. So I had to look and see a number of years ago, honestly, when my mother passed away, there were things that she hadn't fulfilled in life, in her own creative life. She was a prolific writer, and she had boxes and reams of paper that were all these poems she had written, and it was really her life dream to publish this book. And I actually illustrated and published the book for her shortly after she passed away. But I was confronted with my own procrastination. What were my dreams, right? So I really sort of, honestly, it was only 3 years ago that I took this big leap in being, who do I look at myself as an artist? And now every exhibition I professionally photograph, and I make videos about my work. And there was this whole level up that I did. So a time to look and see, where can you step up in your own professional, about, maybe you're just getting started as an artist, and like getting a business card is the first step up, or a website is a step up. People will be at different spaces. And then the next module will be about planning for success and staying inspired. And so it was a real wonderful moment in the last Big Vision course where, there were a number of people, and one, she paints prolifically, but was so focused on only selling her work. And so we talked about, for me, one of my forms of success is being invited to exhibit, being invited to talk, being invited to propose a project, that there's having an article written about me, being invited to have an article or an interview. So those are forms of success. And, there was one participant, and it was only about, for her, when she looked at success, it really just meant that her work was selling. And so I shared some things for myself that always bring me joy, right? And one of those is keeping a sketchbook, because it has nothing to do with anybody other than my own thoughts, my ideas, my visions, my dreams, my sketches, my doodles, my spilling paint on the picture, right? Or working out a problem. And she started embracing the sketchbook, and actually she's a mother, and she would like do drawings of her laundry. And then going to the laundry gave her joy. So we'll talk about aspects of success and staying inspired, and then collaborating. In my life as an artist, I've collaborated on multiple different levels. I've collaborated with other artists in interviews. I've collaborated on art projects. Most recently, I collaborated on a video that was exhibited worldwide. And so collaborating is an aspect that, you can look at collaboration in your own life. Another area I look at collaborating is working with curators and collectors. It's actually a form of collaboration if you look at it that way. So we'll talk about collaboration. And on that, I had a visiting curator who spoke also. So I'm looking at a number of other visiting speakers in the Big Vision course. And then last but not least, we'll talk about exhibitions and alternative exhibition spaces. Now that you've got all of this, put together about who you are as an artist and what do you want to get out in the world, we'll look at some spaces and how to approach people around creating opportunities for studio visits, for gallery opportunities, and for creating all those spaces that are kind of impromptu spaces, or not necessarily what you would think of as the gallery or the museum, but there's alternative spaces that you can come up with. And so we'll do some brainstorming about that, and we'll kind of dive in and look and see. So each module, there'll be a conversation that I'll lead for a portion of it, and then we'll have a discussion. And then we also have a Facebook page. And what I'm looking at is keeping the last Facebook page live and bringing the new members into that, because part of what I really saw was the community that grew. You know, how people started, people who were participants in the course started sharing information with each other. And at any rate, so I'm really looking forward to that. And the dates for the course, we are going to be beginning the course March 4th, and it'll be a 6-week. So we're looking at having it on a Thursday. Annalise, I was thinking about you, and I was like, gosh, if Annalise wants to do the course, I might adjust the hours so they fit with European hours. But right now we have it slotted for, starting at 5:30. So I had my European friends in mind, like, okay.
Let's talk about that, Corrina, because I would love to have a conversation with you anyway, aside from this.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
That's great.
Great. So I'm going to have the time TBA, but right now I have slotted either Tuesday or Thursday towards the end of the day were the days that I was looking at to host the course, and it'll be a 6-week session. So I might do, evening hours and middle of the day hours, or I might swap it. I'm kind of in the thick of it right now. I'm going to partly let, who's really jumping to join. And just to give you the cost of the course, it's going to be $298 for early bird price and $398 as we get closer to the course. So that's what I wanted to share about, is really like kind of the outline for this course that I've designed. And after having the first one, I really felt inspired. I was like, there's really a lot that I can share and pass on to other people. And so that's what I wanted to share with all of you today. And so those of you that are on Facebook Live that are looking, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat. And those of you that are right here, if there's anything that I talked about that you're like, let's dig in a little deeper, I want a little more info, I'm happy to share that as well. So any questions from either of you all, or something that you heard that inspired you? It's completely off.
Well, you inspire me. Again, I don't want to, because this is Facebook Live, I don't want to get into too much. I'm just, my dad was always kind of the person who was, get a real job, right? And I lived in LA for a long time and surrounded by, certain artistic expression, primarily, of course, in the movie industry, right? But I was not so much into it. I was a little concerned because, some of the logistics and some of the conversations can be a little wonky, right? And I won't, get into the gossip, but, there's a lot of drama around a lot of that. And what I found in the last, being on Zoom in 2020, is that started up singing, drawing, writing courses. So I've just really embraced writing since artistry since about last May. The Artist Way with Julia Cameron, and writing down the bones with Natalie Goldberg, this type of thing. And so I'm not sure if I'm at a level of curating, I haven't produced anything. What comes up for me is I love the conversation behind it, of who you're being. I love the conversation of the artistic expression, and really the networking opportunity. I'm writing down names of like, oh, Corrina needs to talk to this person and this person and this person. And I'm really taken by the word collaboration. So that's what's inspiring to me, is the collaboration, because a lot of the people I'm speaking to or interacting with are in London, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and I'm now in Poland. And I'd spoken with your artistic friend, your fellow artist, Floyd Hall. So I don't want to talk anymore, but let's just say I'm inspired by collaboration and what that could look like on a national scale, international scale, especially during this quote unquote difficult time.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, thanks, Annalise. And I'm happy to set up a, one-on-one conversation with you if you want to get into depth with anything. And
I'm also saying this for anybody on Facebook Live, because there are a lot of these communities with the Artist Way, with these drawing, where there are 50 people who show up, or 17 people who may engage in this big vision and this conversation.
That's so great. Thank you. And thank you for looking at the whole depth of it, like locally and nationally and internationally. And, when I look at my own, right, big vision of who I see I am in the world, I want to operate in a global manner, right? And then there's sometimes, I think up until 2020, I felt kind of distant from people on the other side of the world. But one thing I have to say, inside the pandemic is I feel so much closer to people on the other side of the world. And Annalise, you're one person who you hop on this show all the time. And it's like, I can then be like, wow, we have this, show that operates locally. And yet at the same time, it's internationally, and so I appreciate and acknowledge you from, tuning in all the way from Poland in the evening. And being a part of the dialogue, being a part of the conversation, and looking to see, like, collaboration is something. I'm going to be honest. There was a couple years ago, there was a film that was made about me and another artist, and initially I was like, they asked if they could make this film about me and this body of work, where I was transforming guns. And there was another artist, and he also was working with guns in his artwork. And I had no idea, but one of his best buddies is Elton John. And, my friend who was in the other person in this video, he sends the film to Elton John. And he says, look I'm so proud of this work that we've done. And he said, oh, I love what you're up to, but who's that other woman that's also in the film with you? Does she have any more of those pieces? And, I'm going to be honest, I didn't set out to have Elton John be one of my collectors, but now Sir Elton John is one of my collectors, right? So that's something.
Right on, girl, right on.
That was a pleasant surprise out of collaborating. I didn't have an intention for that, but sometimes when you mix it up and you get out of your own comfort zone. Many years ago, I went to Germany when I was in my, what do you call that? Like kind of journeyman apprenticeship part of life, where I was working with other people. And then I had just opened my own studio, and I knew all these people, and they did apprenticeships at this studio, blacksmithing studio in Germany. And I don't really speak much Germany, but I went and I did a study abroad in France, self-guided study abroad, and then went on to Germany and gave a lecture about my studying of ancient and contemporary metalwork at a national conference. But the real gem happened when I visited with this blacksmith in Germany, that all these people who I had known, some of the best blacksmiths in America, all men, they had studied with this blacksmith. And there we are, we're having lunch, and we're in Aachen, Germany. And he looks over at me and he says, he didn't use the word acknowledge, it was some other word, but he said, I really commend you. That's right. He says, I really commend you for coming all the way to Germany and for coming to visit me at my studio and to see the Vulcanschmied, right? And for sharing your work with me. He says, it's very unusual, the work that you do inside of blacksmithing, and the innovative thinking, and that you're a woman and you're an American, and you just kind of get going on. And he says, but what I want to really acknowledge you for is the travel. He says, when you take yourself out of your own comfortable home and your own space where you read your own newspaper and you have all your own variables that and you take yourself to the other side of the world and you read somebody else's newspaper and you walk down somebody else's streets and you eat the food in some other place, he says, that's when real growth happens. And so there was this acknowledgement for kind of getting out of my comfort zone, right? Now, in this day and age, in the last year and probably this upcoming year, there probably won't be a lot of international travel, but we have Zoom. We can interact with people all over the world right now without even a plane ticket.
I can help you out. I can eat some fresh pierogies and,
Exactly. And, and collaboration is something, I was a part of this big project where we had this film that a group of us collaborated on creating. And I was the, what did they call me? They called me something. There was a person who we had as the director. I was the producer. So I pulled the whole group of people together. And now, recently, I was putting a proposal together for a large public project. And I looked at the other people that I would normally think, oh, I'm hiring this person to do this and I'm hiring this person. I sat down and I really thought, I'm collaborating with these people, you know? And it was like a fresh look at what is it to create a vision by bringing multiple people together. And the experience was very fresh and new because I myself, I've even had collaborative groups that have lasted for 2 years, you know, up to 6 individuals where we physically work together. So there's like there's a new flair for collaboration that it's fresh for me, that I'm really excited to share with other people and interact with. So anyhow, anything for you, Roxy? Anything you're hearing in this discussion or anything you'd like to share?
Let me get off mute. No, I'm just sort of listening, taking it all in. I mean, it makes, when you were talking about your comfort zone, I have a quote that's pasted up and it says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Totally.
So yeah, all the things you said, I think are just really important to an artist, moving forward. And the connections, the collaborations, at least for me, and I think a lot of artists are the same, I'm kind of a raging introvert in a lot of ways. And that can be great, but then you also, need to bring in the energy of the other people and the other artists around you as well, in terms of, collaboration and learning from each other.
Yeah.
So it's always a balance, being an artist, when do you need to retreat and be in your isolation in your own, and then when is it time to creep back out and really, start, connecting with the other energies of the other artists. That's the thing that I missed the most about COVID was, I was just starting to learn how to have my family life and my studio life, and then sort of have my public life by going to art openings and, kind of meeting your art people in your tribe, out and about at different openings, different events. And so when COVID hit, I really kind of, I realized how much I missed that. And
Right.
like I was saying at the beginning of Zoom, it's taking me how many months to sort of embrace the Zoom world of COVID. I've been kind of resistant, like I'm not going to live my life through the damn computer. But, I've resisted long enough. And now I realize it's a great tool. I have to look at it as, instead of a contraption that's stealing my energy, it's actually a good tool to share energy. So I've had to flip my, perspective on the electronic world that we live in. It's been tough, but I've just had to let it go.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And I've really been enjoying, your project that you've been working on right from when you were at Hambridge, that Breathe project. I've been very curious about it. And I love that you did the videography with Ben. And, I loved watching you make the pieces. You're so good. I mean, even if you talk about, maybe being, I'm not going to say the right word, but I'm just going to use the word shy for lack of better words. But, like avoiding, certain parts in the media, you're so good at documenting and sharing,
Oh, well, thank you.
Your projects and what you're up to, even like the bees on your back porch. And, like, I feel like I know you through your environment. And then when I see your artwork, it makes so much sense to me, what you're creating. So,
Well, thanks. That always is nice to get different feedback, because sometimes, you don't really, if you're not getting the feedback, you're kind of, in your own little world. But I will share, I did make a couple of videos, with Ben that explain my Breathe project a little bit more. So that's what I'll be sharing.
Oh, next week.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
I'll share at least one of the videos.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, if you want, we can do a little quick practice before your time, so that, any nervousness that comes up here.
It's more the technology
Yeah.
You know,
And you know
in
what I've
effect.
learned too, when I have people on the show, if you send me a copy of what you're going to do in case something happens, I had a presenter and I think that there was something that happened and it wasn't connecting. And so I realized if I had a copy on, in my possession, if something were to happen on the other, I prefer for the artist to have control of what they're sharing. But I
Right.
realized that in a backup, I need to have a copy too.
Right, you can throw it up. Yeah, good, good.
Well, I noticed we have a few more minutes left, and would you like to see this international collaboration? It's about 4 minutes long.
I'd love to.
You want to see it? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'll do a little screen share and I'll pull it up. Okay. So I'm going to give this full screen and play. Here we go. You guys can hear it. There's laughter. You can hear it okay?
We share our blessings. You have arrived here in this moment, a bowing down to receive, a reaching out to bestow. Each and you and me. Each and every one, crowned by your light and goodness, your humble service, your endless and infinite love of discovery, your deep compassion, your aliveness, that being with you gives light where light is wanted and needed. Where light is wanted and needed calls you from your slumber. Like the roots of the trees entwined below the surface, enable majesty to rise beyond what would be if we were not together. Because we are together. The work is being done. The cycles are completed. The freedoms are arising. And this is how we be together. How we create together. How we move to make these marks of glory across the shared field we call reality. We call humanity. We call opportunity. The glimmering, fleeting, effervescent, disappearing moment. Our shared awareness. You and me together. We call this celebration. thank you. Thank you.
There we go. So that was 8 different individuals, and I apologize. That was the version that didn't have the credits, but my friend Hans Peterson did the video editing, and some of the art, the digital art, was his. And Megan Miller Lopez, I think you know her probably, Annalise, from Los Angeles. She had the other visual artwork, the main other visual artwork that was not my visual artwork. And she also does something that's called the Akashic Records. She looks at the Akashic Records. And so that's where the saying, the spoken word came. And the person who did the spoken word was a good friend of mine and one of my collectors, Rita Tucker Williams. And the sort of operatic musical singing was Linda Munch out of Chicago. And the director was from Canada. She's a film producer and writes pilots for TV shows. And actually, she asked me to be on one of those. And she's in Toronto, Canada. And and then there was one other artist, visual artist, Diane Paul, and she had some paintings and drawings that were kind of merged in there with the rest of the work. So that was a big collaboration, and we all pulled together and we worked. We met every Sunday and we talked about ideas, and we started these Google documents, Google Drives, where we'd fill images and music and created a storyline. I mean, it was just like, it was really very otherworldly, and that was part of our goal, was to have the piece feel sort of otherworldly. So that was my favorite collaboration from last year.
That was fabulous. Very provocative. Definitely very, outer worldly, really, kind of puts you in the space of, really, watching and thinking and kind of moving with the piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So.
Speaking of provocative, I have to say I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I think some of it was a bit spliced.
Oh, okay.
It was a bit delayed. So I'm sorry if I didn't get the full, I got a full, but anyway, I think it kind of stopped and started. Speaking of provocative, Roxanne, one of my favorite artists is Marina Abramovich. So I love
Sure, if I'm familiar with her.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's like considered the grandmother of performance art.
Oh,
She's the Serbian lady who, since like the late 60s, early 70s, did that piece. She's most famous for working with her lover, Ele, for like 15 years. And they did their breakup of their relationship was on the wall of the Great Wall. He walked from one end, she walked from another. She did a MoMA. She was at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and she's famous. Anyway.
Okay.
And
I'll look her up, and I might be familiar with her work. I just have a real block for names.
Yeah. Anyway, so her stuff. Let's just put it this way: she did a thing of like sitting in silence, a being with exercise, where people queued for like 3 hours to sit in front of her for about 30 seconds. And one of the most famous YouTube clips is after they hadn't seen each other in like 20 years or something like this. Ile, her former lover, sat in front of her, and it was a total surprise to her. And she's her most famous. Anyway, I won't. But anyway, speaking of provocative, she's amazing. So, and then as far as like spoken word, this has nothing to do with spoken word, but Hannah Gadsby's piece on being a comic. Have you seen that, Roxanne?
I haven't.
Okay, it's Hannah Gadsby and her one-woman show called Nanette. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It was actually all over YouTube, and I don't even know if it was, anyway, and she did a follow-up show called Douglas, which I actually flew to Brussels, to Belgium to see.
Wow.
If you haven't, okay, so I can't contribute to the conversation. Yes, I can contribute, Corrina, but I highly recommend watching that and looking up, especially, I'll say this, Marina's most famous piece probably was where she lined up several objects on a table, and invited the audience to do whatever they wanted to her body with it. So she's famous, you know, cutting off her nails and hair and light and putting very close to fire. Oh, it's just amazing. But anyway, you said provocative. I was like, oh, I can give you one. The lady's amazing.
You went in a whole direction with the provocative there.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
but I was like, you know.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here today. It's great to see your faces. And anything you wanted to say about the film, Roxy, before I kind of bring our session today to a close?
No, I thought it was, yeah, it was fabulous. So,
Great. Great. Awesome. And if you want, we can set up a time before next Tuesday to just, you know, do a little dry run
okay.
of what you're doing. And then and if you want, you can send me a copy so that we have that, you know.
Okay.
in case
Okay.
it's something I learned. So
Yeah.
with that being said, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you all who joined us on Facebook Live. And as Floyd brought in, for those of you in the future, thank you for watching this and taking all of this into consideration. And if anyone has any questions about the upcoming Big Vision 2, the next step, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm pretty excited about building this community of people and creating a space to share information and inspiration and success and your version of what success is. So thank you everyone for being here. And Roxy, I can't wait to see your presentation next week. And I guess I'll get the little preview of what that is. And those of you that are joining us, you know, come back next week and you will see Roxy with her, I always call you Roxy, but do you prefer Roxanne?
That's either or, really. You know,
Yeah.
I have multiple personalities. So Roxy works, Roxanne works. It just.
Any little cliffhangers you want to leave us with between now and next Tuesday?
Just breathe.
Great. I love it. I love it. All right. Well,
Okay.
I'm
great.
aligned with that. Thank you. I'll probably see you next week.
Okay, great. All
Thanks
right.
everyone for joining Connect and Create, episode 43. Woohoo!
Wow.
All right.
Good deal.
Bye-bye.